Welcome back to Friday nights here on Speak Now Pro Wrestling. It is Friday, August 9th. I'm Denise Salcedo, and I am joined by my co-host, Robin Lundberg, and we are here. We're back, Robin. What a time to be alive, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. Yeah. I got some OTC flowing through my veins right now, so I'm juiced up.
I was gonna say it really caught on really fast where the fans are like chanting OTC. We're seeing OTC shirts everywhere. And I'll just be real. I can't wait till he ditches the OTC stuff because he's not the original tribal chief. He is the tribal chief.
But it is impressive, Denise. Not only did he get it over, he didn't say a word. He hasn't said a word. So, it's not like he's been trying hard to. He wore a shirt, he wore a shirt twice, and now all of a sudden OTC is a thing. And we've seen it, good recent example. I only say this because it's three letters, same thing. They've tried to make the CEO thing a big deal with Mercedes over in AEW, and they crowd chant and pumped in and all that sort of stuff. That's the power of Roman Reigns, that he just shows up wearing it, and the crowd already knows to bring it along and chant it along. I mean, he hasn't even gotten the microphone to say acknowledge the OTC.
Nothing. He hasn't said a word, and I really love that because I love that today we got straight into the action, straight into the violence. And so for that being said, we're going to get straight into Roman Reigns' return. So Robin, you and I haven't had a chance to chat. Obviously, the last 2 weeks I was in San Diego Comic-Con, and then I was in Cleveland for SummerSlam. So we haven't gotten a chance to catch up and talk about everything that's been going down on SmackDown, and especially with the return of Roman Reigns. So at SummerSlam, when you saw Roman Reigns come back, how did it come across on TV? Because in the building, it was so freaking loud, that reaction to Roman Reigns. And even though I would say most people expected Roman Reigns' return, that reaction was still freaking massive. And I haven't gotten a chance to watch it on video just yet.
Look, it came across like you would expect. And I like to use my kids as a barometer on here and just in general, right? And my oldest, Raj, he hated Roman Reigns. He wanted him to lose. He's like, I hate him. I hate Roman. And he immediately threw it up. And now he's a big Roman Reigns fan. He says he acknowledges his tribal chief when he refused to do so before. The only thing that I could possibly argue as a drawback is it wasn't, you knew what it was, but it wasn't maybe the same instantaneous reaction because the theme was flipped a little bit. And I'm still unsure how I feel about this new orchestral theme because I like the other one so much.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. I love the original, the original version of Roman Reigns' theme song. It gets so freaking good that I miss it because it hit a little bit harder. This one has more of I'm a baby face now, so I'm gonna sound a little extra perky. And now I got all of this pyro and all of that is great. But because the other song just sounded so dominating and just so much more captivating, I do miss the song a whole lot. And I mean, it's still the same thing. It's just tweaked a little bit. So it's not too different, but it doesn't hit anywhere near the way the original version did.
That sucker needs some drums. Where are the drums? Whoever was in charge of this, give me the, I'm waiting for it to drop. It'd be fine if it dropped. And that's the problem. I think it's it's a callback to the WrestleMania theme, the orchestral entrance.
Oh, yeah, you're right about that. I had forgotten about that.
And they did a couple callbacks. If you knew, I knew for sure Roman, I already figured he was coming back at SummerSlam. And I was almost certain of it when I knew that Solo and Cody was headlining it. But I knew for sure when Cody wore the WrestleMania mask, right? He wore that mask that he came out to eventually win the championship in. So I was like, oh, okay. They're telling us without saying it explicitly that Roman is showing up. But I think it was sort of an homage to what he entered at WrestleMania with. But the other one's too good. And it's not it's a heel music. It's just a banger. It's just a banger. So let me, please, if anybody from WWE is watching this or watches this in the future, bring us back the OTC theme. Original tribal theme, OTT. No, let's just go with OCC.
Original tribal. Hold on. No, we got it. It's OTCT.
Okay.
Original tribal chief theme.
There you go.
Took a second. I had to think about it.
And I know you want to mix it up and change it up, but some things don't need to be messed with. And like the glass shattering doesn't need to be messed with. If you smell what the Rock is cooking, doesn't need to be messed with. And just the dun, 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 the way it comes in. Dun, 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 dun. That's just something I would just play on its own. So I missed that.
I do feel you on that, but okay, so today we kind of got a lot here with the Bloodline, and I guess we kind of have to, we'll skip to the, I was going to say we can mix in the beginning. All right, let's mix in the beginning and with the end, because it kind of all ties in together. So Cody Rhodes is out there, and Solo Sikoa, he gets there, he interrupts Cody Rhodes, and he wants his rematch, all right? I don't think anybody here wants to necessarily see Solo Sikoa have his rematch against Cody Rhodes, and Cody Rhodes basically tells him, like, no, bro, you had your chance, you went and you tried, you had all these people come out and help you, and you still couldn't defeat me, right? Of course, he had the help of Roman Reigns, but that wasn't necessarily mentioned, but Solo Sikoa is not getting his rematch, and he is coming out with the Bloodline, everybody except Jacob Fatu, which we'll get to that in just a second, but he's there with Tama Tonga. He's there with Tonga Loa. And it's 3 against 1. But Kevin Owens comes out and he has Cody Rhodes' back. So really quickly, all of a sudden, Solo Sikoa takes a couple steps back and he's like, all of a sudden, not wanting to get involved there with Cody Rhodes. And so he leaves, he bounces, and suddenly he's no longer interested in pursuing this rematch and decides to change his focus to Roman Reigns. And he comes out at the end of the show and starts asking for Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns goes out there, doesn't say anything, just goes in there and starts kicking butt. But before he can actually spear Solo Sikoa gets pulled out of the ring by his guys, and he ends up taking out Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa. And Solo Sikoa keeps his what is it, the Ula Fala? He keeps that and basically taunts it in his face. But it was a pretty damn electric way to sort of wrap up the show. But what did you think of the thread from Solo Sikoa asking for his rematch with Cody to eventually having that confrontation with Roman Reigns?
Well, we knew Roman had come back because Solo was claiming to be tribal chief. I mean, that's the whole point of the OTC shirt. And the tribal chief necklace, what was it called again?
The Ula Fala.
The Ula Fala is the championship in this case, right? Like when Roman Reigns meets Solo Sikoa, whenever they schedule that match, whether it's Bash at Berlin or, you know, the following event, that's what's going to be on the line in that match. As far as Solo goes, I'm a little torn on him, Denise, because I actually think
just a little.
I think he's doing a very good job with his presentation. Like, I think he got the heat from the crowd. I think his delivery, his walk, the way he's carrying himself is all strong. He's just not good enough in the ring. That's my problem with him, is like when he's in that main event match against Cody, I don't know if he can carry it with the big boys per se in the ring. Otherwise, I think he's doing a solid job. But there's a lot to unpack there because it goes to we'll get to the Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes aspect of that in a second. But we always knew where we were headed with this in the short term, you know, because they're going to have Roman go against Solo till it's time for him to get, you know, his true property back, that Universal Championship.
Dude, that's the thing. I feel bad because right now Solo Sikoa isn't necessarily hitting the mark, right? It's not happening in ring. The match with him and Cody Rhodes, I didn't really think was great. And keep in mind, I was there in the crowd watching live, and I kept finding myself turning and looking the other direction, and I'm going to see what the crowd is doing. And it wasn't until everybody started coming in, Randy, KO, and then eventually the return of Roman Reigns, where I started to get like back into the match. But I felt bad because I thought, oh my God, like this match did not need to go as long as it did. I don't know how it came across on TV. On TV, did it come across like it wasn't, how was it on TV?
It was fine, right? It was fine, which is not a great description. It wasn't like bad. It wasn't like, oh, they're sticking up the joint, but it was, when's Roman Reigns coming out, right?
No, I felt bad because I looked at my watch and I could tell, I'm like, okay, the show's probably going to finish at this time. So that means there's something X amount of minutes. And I started doing I was doing the math inside of my head as to how long we were going to be getting of just Cody and Solo until we eventually got to everything. And it ended up happening the way that I figured it was going to happen too. So that kind kind of told me that I wasn't necessarily into the match portion. I was more so just, again, like a lot of people, waiting for the return of Roman Reigns.
Yeah, and Solo, I can't remember. My youngest son is a Solo Sikoa fan, and he asked to watch a Solo match. I think I referenced this the last time we did a show. I don't know what to tell him because I can't.
Oh yeah.
I can't think of a good Solo Sikoa match. I mean, my oldest also always is trying to Samoan spike me, so there's some sort of carryover. The character is working in that sense, but the payoff doesn't work. Now, to that, we saw what happened with Jacob Fatu at the end of that match, and I'm curious now whether he's actually injured, and I hope that's not the case. That would be a big blow. Or this is a work in a sense to keep him away from Roman Reigns. Because if he shows up with Roman Reigns and Roman Reigns takes him out, that takes out a lot of that aura they've worked to build. And you can't have Roman Reigns get taken out fresh off returning as well. So I do wonder if they're deliberately, like, that's why he got hurt on that spot, so that he couldn't get involved with Roman Reigns' return. And now the injury could be used to sell him being out for a minute so that you keep Jacob Fatu and Roman Reigns separated as long as you possibly can.
So I remember at the press conference, they didn't really say too much, and not very many details have come out regarding it, but it was basically like, oh, he got banged up. He was seen in a boot afterwards. And I do think like all of that is like legit and whatnot. I feel the reason why is because without Jacob Fatu, the bloodline just does not hit as hard. We've been talking about this for weeks now, how having Jacob Fatu has really been that, the ingredient. He is the sugar in the cake that is making everything just hit a lot harder. Well, in this case, sweeter. But he's really the thing that you want. He is the ingredient that you want in the bloodline, at least this version of it. And so I can't imagine them wanting to eliminate Jacob Fatu from this situation on purpose, because he is the thing that is giving them, I don't know, can you imagine what it must have, because, okay, for example, today when we were seeing Roman Reigns and Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa, and they were going at it in the ring, and for like a minute there, it seems like they had Roman Reigns' number, just for, a small brief of a moment, right? But he was able to wipe them out so quick, so fast, because let's be real, I don't think many of us here would have been like, oh yeah, we totally believe Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa taking out Roman Reigns. Like, sure, it's still 2 against 1, and I get it, but I still feel that Roman Reigns can manage to take out both of these guys on his own accord. However, had Jacob Fatu been in there, I think it would have been much more of a matchup where it would have been like, I would have been thinking to myself, damn, Roman Reigns isn't going to be able to be there standing tall at the end of SmackDown, right? So we would have had to see that a lot more. Of course, with Jacob Fatu there, it would have, to your point, they would have had to take out Roman Reigns, because all 3 of them, Roman Reigns can't take on all 3 of them. That's too much. That's too much. So to your point, you do have something to that, but I think if Jacob Fatu, it would have been just worked a little bit differently.
Perhaps, but if he indeed, was supposed to be taken out by that table spot, whether he got injured on top of it or not, or that was the device to keep him separate, I do think it is wise to keep him separated from Roman Reigns for the time being, because it's going to hit hard when he eventually does come in, blindsides Roman Reigns and takes him out. And then we get that Roman Reigns, Jacob Fatu showdown down the line, which is in a sense bigger than the Roman Reigns Solo Sikoa.
Yeah, I was about to say, damn, it really is the bigger thing though, Robin. And that's unfortunate, because Solo Sikoa is the leader. Solo Sikoa is the one that's supposed to be the new tribal chief or whatever. But the fact that all of us here, or the good majority of us are, I can't wait to see Roman Reigns and Jacob Fatu. What is that going to be like? What's that electricity going to be like? That's what we're sort of waiting for. And I feel like that says, that speaks a lot to what we're working with right now. So again, I do miss Jacob Fatu though. I was going to tweet that out. I forgot to tweet that out, but I really do miss Jacob Fatu.
Yeah, we just, it would have been an impact injury, right? It wasn't the back of the leg. So if we're dealing in reality terms, obviously you don't want to see anybody reach for the lower back of the leg, like in the Achilles region. That's like the worst case scenario. And then a calf injury can linger. On the front, I'm not sure what it would be that's so damaging. And the walking boot thing, that's often used as a precautionary measure. It doesn't necessarily mean the worst. I mean, even in those photos I saw him on the walking boot, it's not like he wasn't going around on his own power. So until I hear otherwise, obviously want to send the positive energy that nobody's hurt. I never want anybody to be hurt. I especially don't want him to be hurt, given the ramifications for this story. And I do think it's a good way for us to be worked for the plot or the storytelling of keeping the OTC and the new BA away from each other.
Okay, so you're under the impression that this is possibly a work here and that he's not hurt.
I'm under at least that it's being sold extra too. Like,
okay.
Not that he didn't necessarily get injured at all, but I feel like, I don't know. I feel like if it was something really significant and serious, we would know by now. Don't usually that stuff get out there by now, because he would have had to have had surgery, or as soon as Rhea Ripley was hurt, we knew about it by the next day, and she was out for however long. We know that Seth Rollins is out for an extended period of time. Like, all these things tend to happen very quickly, and it's been over a week now, right? Or right on a week now. And we haven't had a concrete update. So that makes me hopeful that it is
right. Because a part of it, like I said, not having Jacob Fatu as part of this dynamic, it kind of blows without him, at least for the bloodline side of it. And when Roman Reigns is out there, nobody cares. Everybody's focused on Roman Reigns, but you're at the same time still waiting and anticipating that confrontation between Fatu and Roman Reigns. So we'll wait and see what the hell goes down. But let's get into these super chats, and then we're going to get into the Cody Rhodes, Kevin Owens portion of this, because that was also pretty big news on this show. But first and foremost, thank you so much to Sheldon Jackson for gifting 5 DWO memberships. We also got Kevin Zwicker here, who says Roman's aura is GOAT level. Dude, that's something that's undeniable. Undeniable. I felt it in the building. And here's the thing, like, Roman's always had that aura, but now as a babyface, oh, it hits harder. I've been in buildings where he's getting, cheered or booed or whatever, a mixture of an audience when he was a heel. But now that everyone's on board and he's a babyface and we can all love him, dude, it hits different on TV and live at the event.
I mean, you hear that, ooh, like that
extra loud
is going off. And it's kind of poetic in a sense, because if you think about it, really, and I've said this, I've made this comparison to The Rock before. Rocky Maivia was pushed as this blue chip prospect, which led to the Die Rocky Die stuff, which led to The Rock, and the rest is history. Roman Reigns was in that, vein where he was pushed as like the big dog. Roman Reigns, he's the big baby face that everybody's going to rally around in, and it just didn't work. It just didn't work. Though I guess you could see there was something there, but the magic wasn't there until the wreck everyone and leave, which we saw a little bit today, into the tribal chief. And because of how invested everybody was in the tribal chief, whether they realized it or not, they were all Roman Reigns fans. Even the people who said they wanted him to lose the belt, or people who said he's a part-timer, everybody was actually a Roman Reigns fan. That's why they were so invested in the bloodline for as long as they were. And the moment for Cody was even bigger than it would have been had he beaten Seth Rollins for the title. I mean, why did fans reject the notion of Cody challenging Seth? Because it wasn't Roman Reigns. It wasn't the guy. It wasn't the person who's carried the company on his back. And there are very few, Denise. There are very few who are of that stature. Really, the way I would think about it, because there's been other greats who have, like The Undertaker was there for a long time, but I don't even think he falls in this category. Bret and Shawn had their runs. I don't even think they fall in this category. I think it was Hulk Hogan, and then it was Stone Cold Steve Austin, and then it was The Rock, and then it was John Cena, and now it's Roman Reigns. Like, pillar, company-carrying, industry-carrying, aura, GOAT level.
We got Sven Big here, who says, funny how in the beginning of the show, they were muting the crowd, but they were chanting OTC. Also, shout out to, we had the Hulk in there, the OG Hulk, the original Hulk, the OG Hulk. Yeah, I was like, oh shit, that's a pretty huge get right there, by the way. But, they were muting the crowd. I think I only heard the crowd getting muted when Solo Sikoa went out there, and I don't know if they were chanting OTC or something else. I'm not sure, but that was the only time that I noticed that the crowd was getting muted.
Well, I mean, the Fox, who knows? Every week they're blacking us out. We don't know what's going on. They could misinterpret something and think it's an expletive. I don't know why everything has to be dropped for that at this point in time.
It's so annoying. It was funny because I was at SmackDown before SummerSlam and I went to the show. And when Logan Paul came out, I kept thinking to myself, ooh, if I was at home right now, I wouldn't be seeing any of this segment. Like, I'm actually being able to watch a full Logan Paul segment without anything turning dark or people muting things, because that's what it is watching, especially Logan Paul, because of the way that the crowd reacts to him. I remember the last time that you and I were talking about how much this affected the freaking show was when we saw with Logan Paul, the whole segment was either muted or blacked out. It was impossible to watch. And I remember it was a pretty good matchup, and we didn't even get to see most of it because everything was getting muted or blacked out. So I was appreciating being there live and actually being able to see a full, from the beginning to the end, Logan Paul segment.
And that was fresh off Logan Paul being in a little bit of controversy because he had the tweets about the boxers.
So did they mute anything on the show?
Yo, yeah.
They did?
Yeah, they definitely did. Yeah, there was big chunks of it that were black.
Yeah, I just get so annoyed with them blacking out or muting anything because it's hard to watch. It's so hard to watch.
And I guess I don't understand the side. You know, I worked in sports talk radio for the longest time, and there was always a dump button, which if somebody cursed, you could press, and it would like give you the delay would kick in. So I don't know if it's a similar effect, but you figure you could just mute the audio without blacking out the screen, and that would give people a better example. I don't know, but it's just like deal with it at this point.
I mean, right here, right now on this stream, I can choose to like remove a video, move a video. I mean, come on, if StreamYard can do it and I can unmute really quickly, no big deal. Keep the video up, take the video out, whatever, then we should be able to do this on Fox.
You would think with all the years of television programming, and like I don't know if it's going to change with because SmackDown's about to move pretty soon, right?
Maybe they're just being salty. You think they're just being a little mean?
I don't know what they gained from that either. This exchange, I really, it's frustrating. It's frustrating because you always feel like no matter how many times you know it's happening, you always feel like something's wrong on your end at first.
Yes, that's literally how I felt this Wednesday with Dynamite, because in the opening segment, I don't know what was not happening, but there was this like cracking sound on comment. I wasn't sure if it was me, if it was the TV or what it was, but it ended up being, I think on commentary, because it totally stopped, but there was like this weird cracking sound and it got on my nerves, and I hate that because then it's hard to like focus. But we got a super chat here from Sheldon Jackson who says, Mr. OTC, yeah, you know him. I like the play on words with OPP, yeah, you know me. Also, question, what are the consequences of Solo losing at SummerSlam to Cody, since he said on the SmackDown after Mania, losing has consequences? Dude, I mean, I would say that the consequences are, well, one, you don't get the championship. That's one. That's the biggest one for sure. And two, you don't get your rematch. That's the second consequence based on how things went down. And then the third consequence, I would probably say it's like a pride thing. You lose some pride, you lose some face.
He's going to lose to Roman Reigns. And then once that happens, what else is there for Solo other than group scenarios, right? Like Bloodline War Games. Stuff like that could still be effective, but I think his run up here is kind of done the second that third hand hits for the 3 when Roman Reigns inevitably pins him.
Yeah, but when he pins him, then he'll just become a side character in the Jacob Fatu Roman Reigns portion of the story.
But yeah, that's the consequences, though.
He's just going to be moved to the side.
He'll be back in his old role.
Solo. Feels so bad. And I was just talking about this too. I was talking about this on Busted Open last weekend, because when you really go back and you really think about Solo Sikoa's run, Robin, he really was thrown to the wolves. He only had a certain amount of time on NXT, and he wasn't even on NXT that much, for those of you who remember. And all of a sudden he's champion. Then they take the title away from him, or he had to drop the title. I forgot what happened. And then all of a sudden he's thrusted into this big storyline, and he doesn't have to say anything. So great. You just stand there and you look menacing. Cool. And then after that, you're put into this featured spot where only the biggest of the biggest players are. And so when you think about all of what they've done with Solo Sikoa to this point, it was sink or swim. Like, you're on your own, kid. That's really what it felt like.
But I mean, at this point, he's been elevated as high as he's ever been, and most people don't get this opportunity. So I don't really feel bad in that sense. And again, I think some of it is working. Like, I think some of the character stuff is working. People are invested in whether Roman Reigns gets that necklace and puts it on. Like, that part of it is working. It's just you can't sell Solo against whom as a real big main event card. The only reason it worked for SummerSlam is we knew Roman was coming back, right? Like, if they were to run it back and do Cody Solo main eventing something else, you'd be like, oh, come on.
No, I was so glad when that didn't get announced at Bash of Berlin. I was like, please, no.
So that's, and I think that's the biggest issue, whether he was thrown to the wolves or not. I just not sure he has it when it comes to the in-ring work. With that said, I mean, he feels way bigger than Timu Loa and you know, the Tongas. He feels
Tonga and Tonga Loa.
He feels much bigger than them.
I feel like every single week on Twitter, I'm seeing some like botch video that someone caught and they posted on the internet. And every single time it's like, oh, did you see that video? I'm like, oh God, what video is it? Like, let me pay. I guess I think there was like another botch that happened at SummerSlam, but I haven't seen the video though. But there was some sort of error or something that happened. But I mean, coming off of the botched low blow, that was something that it's hard to recover from. But we got David Primero here who says, do you feel disappointed about the Britt Baker issue? Seems like she's affecting the thriving women's division in AEW. She seems to have an attitude. So again, I know we were asked about this on the Dynamite show, guys. This is a hard situation because it's not like we're back there, right? Like, we don't know what is going on with any backstage politics. Anytime you hear, because there's so much freaking politics and everywhere in all walks of life, right? And especially pro wrestling, where it's a place where, you know, certain people are on top at certain points and different parts. And there's egos and there's pride and there's a lot, right? I feel because we're not back there and we don't know what the hell is going on, it's really hard to say. But I think it is hard, though, when you're seeing someone's name constantly be mentioned at the eye of the storm, right? Whenever there's a problem, it's like, oh, well, this person's name was mentioned. Oh, other person was named in this drama, and that drama, and this drama, and this drama. And there's been a lot of, reported dramas that have gone around on Twitter surrounding Britt Baker. But again, we're not back there, and we don't know what's going on.
I can say she's definitely feisty from having interviewed her. You
interviewed her, she was feisty in your interview?
Oh yeah. Well, it was right around the T-shirt time, right? Remember, she had the
black eye one, right?
The black eye, and I had done a short on that at SI, and I'm almost positive she saw it by her reaction to me as the interviewer. You know, when we got in there, like it was just one of those ones I could sort of tell. She had made this face like, oh, it's you that I just saw this about. And we had booked the interview within that day, like, because that's why we wanted to talk to her, being that was a news-making thing at the moment. So I challenged her on it and asked her about it. And to her credit, she responded. She articulated her response. She stood by her response. She put 10 toes down on her response. So credit to her for that. But she pushed back. You know, like, I could tell, all right, this is a firecracker in a sense. You always get that personality type. You can read that a little bit. What that means for what she's done backstage or her relationship with AEW or anybody else, I have no idea, just like you said. But I got that read of her as a person that she's not to be trifled with, if you will, and she's going to speak her mind or do her thing.
Right. And that was a hard one too, because it was such a controversial topic, right? The T-shirt, and everybody had a different stance and opinion on it. And so I can see how she would probably be on edge during a time like that, when everybody's talking about you and everybody's talking about your T-shirt and your, you know, whatever point of view you have. Right. But I can imagine that was a controversial time. And then to do an interview, do you feel you said anything like weird or controversial or something
I think we got to good terms by the end of it, right? Like we talked it through, and I was like, respect you, you know, standing by, blah, blah, blah. And I think it ended and made for a good interview in that regard. But I was the initial thing was at least fairly critical, and I think she saw that and was ready because of that. But you get that read on certain people where, I once, did an interview next to Clarissa Shields, who's a female boxer. And that's the most intimidated I've ever been, because I just felt this energy. Like this woman could take my head off if she wanted, and she just had a certain energy about it. I've interviewed CM Punk, and it was the complete opposite of everything you normally. He was mad low key and gave me compliments after the fact. But I guess, he's one of those quiet until he's combusting kind of dudes. But I just got that vibe from Britt immediately, that she was somebody that, had a little spice to her. And of course, you're right. Like, she was put in a challenging position there because, you feel like everybody's out to get you. This was her big moment, perhaps her big, push, like punk rockish kind of merchandise seller. But I just, that was my read on her after talking to her for 10 or 15 minutes, that this is somebody who has that kind of energy.
Right. And I think it also depends too on how people see the media, because there's some people that are really smart and know how to utilize the media, right? And they know how to turn the charm on and make sure that they are presenting their very best in front of like a camera and whatnot. And I think there's other people that sometimes are sort of apprehensive towards media. Like, everyone has a different attitude towards interviewers, reporters, and not just in wrestling, but in entertainment and all of that. And you see it. We've seen so many stories of stuff like that. So I don't know what it could have been, but I do get you, because, when I've interviewed people, I feel like there are some where I can feel this instant chemistry. And then there's times where I feel, okay, I have to prove myself to this person and get them comfortable before there could be that nice little back and forth.
Well, I mean, even Cody mentioned it too the other day. I mean, and Cody's as much as a politician as there possibly could be. I'm sure we both talked to him. He talked about like having something taken. He thought he did a good interview.
The interview with Chris, yeah,
and it was taken. And I get where people come from, because I don't know if I'm. Let me be fully transparent. In the job that I was doing specifically, I wasn't trying to do a gotcha moment. Like, I wasn't trying to be dishonest and do a. But yeah, I want you to say something that is going to be newsworthy.
Right.
So it's a fine line that you balance, where you have to do your job honestly and with integrity and without malice or ill intent. But at the same time, on the other end of that, I get why people would be a little defensive, because they're worried about walking into that moment or saying the wrong thing. So when you have that perfect synergy, it's kind of rare, but it's almost magical in a way, where, and that can give you the best stuff that is both newsworthy, but also makes the subject look good.
Right. Yeah. Because I don't like that. I don't like the got you type of journalism where people try to basically get that person to fall into a trap, right? Because then that just makes them feel uncomfortable, and then they're not going to want to do interviews with you. But I do feel that asking questions, and I don't know, it's a really, because you're right, it is a fine line to play. Of course, I would love for someone to say some like breaking news on any interview that I do. Why? Because that's going to go viral. And of course, that's everyone's goal. You want to get more views and more stuff like that. But I think at the end of the day, like, I think you just have to, because this has been my experience, where there's times where I've done interviews, right? Whatever. And I usually have Google alerts turned on so that I know which media outlets pick up my interviews, so I could know what's going out there. Where's my work going? Are people seeing it? What's getting picked up? What's newsworthy? What's not? And there's times where I read these headlines and they sound so horrible, like super clickbaity. And I think to myself, they got that out of my interview? That happened in my interview? And I'll click on it and I'm like, what are they talking about? Like, that never happened in this interview. And then I go and I realize it's just a super clickbaity headline. So no matter what, like, these things are always going to, like, there's times where some people really do say things that doesn't make them look bright, or it really is like a dumb thing to say. And you'll know the clip will get spread around all over. It'll happen. But then there are times where even if they don't say anything that's controversial, it'll still be presented that way, because also people that make the articles want for you to click on them. And so they turn things into being super clickbaity, even if the interviewer didn't intend on doing that.
And that's why some people try to micromanage it. I mean, I've turned down Tom Brady interviews because they wanted the question set in stone. And then we negotiated, and I wound up talking to Tom Brady, and I wound up getting a big viral moment from Tom Brady on, so there's those hot button topics. I think as a interviewer, you want to ask the question the fans are interested in. And oftentimes that might be the same thing. And I think they get tired of it because it's this, getting hammered over the head with the same question, which is why a curveball may stick out, which I noticed from you at SummerSlam. I believe it was you that asked the question about the different leagues or the different pro wrestling federations working together and in conjunction.
Was it the Triple H thing?
Yeah.
The TNA wrestling one. Yeah, I asked them why they were working with
TNA. And I saw somebody say, finally, somebody asked that question. So there's other ways around it too, to get something really good that's not the same thing that people. So it's you have to do it again. I mean, I think integrity is a good word. Be intellectually honest with integrity and know what the fans want to hear. But there's other things that can land as well. But it's you get it from the other side of the coin, because one would understand why somebody would be defensive with the media with the kind of clickbait and the aggregation content that you see.
But I do think the smartest person and the smartest celebrity, any celebrity, that what they can do is learn how to use the media for themselves. Like, I think knowing how to talk to the media and knowing how to just like present yourself, it is such an easy way to win people over. Because if people see an interview of yours and you're charming and you're down to earth and you're nice, oh my gosh, people will love you. Like some of the reactions that I've gotten, for example, for my interviews with Jacob Fatu, that one was a big one where people see him on screen TV and they think, oh, he must be really scary and intimidating and mean. And all of a sudden they hear him talk and it's like, oh shit. Baron Corbin, he's another one that people did not like a lot of what he was doing on TV. I get it. I didn't like a lot of stuff that he was doing on TV either. You hear him talk and you're like, shit, this guy is really nice and really humble. Charlotte Flair, she gets a lot of hate too. You listen to her in interviews and I've had people write, oh my God, I didn't know Charlotte was like that. She's so nice. And I feel that a smart person just is comfortable and nice and in front of the camera, just, learns how to, I guess, charm. That's why they do media training and stuff like that.
Well, likability goes a long way, right? Like that's another aspect to it.
Yeah, but media training is super important. And I don't even know how we got on this topic, but we did. So there you go. We'll just, for all the side issues here, we'll just blame David Primero. Just kidding, David. Thank you so much.
That is how we got there. There it is.
Crystal Deck says, 10 months as a member of the DWO. Let's effing go, man. He also says, when Roman Reigns finally gets the Ula Fala back, I feel Heyman needs to present it to him, and that's when he returns. Hell yeah, that's got to be a moment. You don't want him to just, well, I mean, he did grab it today, and unfortunately that moment was ripped out of his hands, but you don't want him to just grab it and put it on. I think it would be really cool if Paul Heyman were to hand it to him. So I like that idea.
I do like that idea a lot, actually. And by the way, if you haven't checked it, I thought the Paul Heyman bio on A&E might have been the best one of that.
Oh, I haven't seen it. I've only seen one.
Oh, it was so good. And you forget, like I've seen the snapshots, but the way it's presented, you forget how many interactions with the big boys he had before, right? Like, he was there with Mean Mark Calloway or whatever the Undertaker was called, or and Stunning Steve Austin, and you're like, oh, wow, this is before Punk and Brock Lesnar and then Roman Reigns. And he just has a unique, incredible story and journey. So I thought that was really awesome. But yes, Chris, I think you're spot on with this. You thought you were getting it tonight, and you could tell the crowd was into that. So the crowd's going to be super into it when Paul Heyman gives it to his tribal chief, the original tribal chief.
Steven Marchulli says, booking idea, Roman, we think, wins Rumble. Rock comes out at 31, eliminates him. Now one move setups 2 matches. So he's saying, okay, Roman to possibly win the Rumble. Rock comes out at 31 and eliminates him. So wait, then the Rock wins the Rumble?
Aren't there only 30 people in the Rumble? Did they go?
Yeah, there's 30 people in the Rumble. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I don't know. I think the Rumble's still so far away from now that my brain is not thinking Royal Rumble right now. I can't even think of who I would want to win that at the moment. I think it still has to, it would be cool if it was somebody like Braun Breaker, right? Like, that would be great. But we got to see what he does as Intercontinental Champion. LA Knight, we got to see what he does as United States Champion. Who else? I mean, you can go with the people that you'd expect. Like you mentioned Roman, you mentioned Rock. I don't know. I don't know if I can see The Rock winning the Rumble. I think that would be Is too much? I don't know.
I mean, it worked. Rock worked. I want to see these 3 matches. 1000%. Rock and Cody, Cody and Roman 3, and Rock and Roman. Those 3 matches I want to see. They can headline any card anywhere in the world. I mean, I think Roman and Cody have the magical chemistry. We've already seen the hints toward that, both in Roman's return, and they're sort of like, okay, it's on tonight with the mention of Roman Reigns by Nick Aldis. We're getting Cody and Roman 3 somewhere down the line. Rock, when he left, said he wasn't done with Cody, right? So we already had that feud planted. We're going to get Rock and Cody, and then we're going to get that Rock and Roman face-off. The timing just wasn't right this year. They tried to spring it into action and force it quickly, and it just wasn't right. But now, with Roman as a babyface and Rock as this incarnation he was when we last saw him, I think that could be absolutely gangbusters box office. So I want to see all 3 of those matches, and I want it to end with Roman having that belt back.
Dude, if we get those 3 matches in 2025, that would be that's it, the biggest year, I think. The biggest year that we can possibly get, because all of those matches are ones that we are anticipating. We got Bunny Swag 69 who says it was a great episode of SmackDown, but I think Roman probably feels refreshed because he never got these kinds of reactions, even when he was a face. Oh yeah, before when he was supposed to be a babyface, no, he was not getting anywhere near these reactions, man. And as a heel, he was getting mixed reactions, right? He was getting people that want to cheer the heel, and he was getting people that were obviously falling in line and booing because he's a heel, and that's what you're supposed to do, right? So now that we're getting these babyface reactions, I mean, God, it is pretty cool. It's pretty cool to see. We got Mike Parker PWMM here who says, I don't think a lot of the fans see Solo Sikoa as a top guy. No matter how they tried to present him, this is only working because Roman is so over. Perhaps a hot take. Not a hot take at all, man. Roman coming back tonight, all of a sudden for example, when they showed Solo Sikoa coming out, I was excited. Why? Because I knew Roman was about to come out. That's what it is.
Yeah, Roman, he used to wear the greatness on a different level. I mean, he's got the thing you can't teach, and he had to learn it over the years because, like the last comment said, it didn't work for him as a babyface that first time around. The reason it works for him now is because of how good a heel he was, and the best babyfaces always come from the cool heels. I mean, Stone Cold and The Rock are the examples of it. That's where usually. I mean, every now and again you get the cookie cutter babyface like Cena and Cody who can really work, but for the most part, the baby faces that get the best reactions are the ones who were the really cool heels, and that was what Roman was.
We got Sven Big who says, don't forget we still got Hikuleo and what side he will eventually be on. Yeah, I forgot about Hikuleo. I mean, it's Hikuleo. I think he sort of falls in line in the same he's in the same box for me as Tama Tonga and Tongaloa, but it's still going to be cool because, he's a big guy and we're going to see how that plays into it. But again, to me, the person I was waiting for was Jacob Fatu. That was the person I was waiting for. That was the person I was excited for. So for me, I'm all good. I'm all set. Everything else is just extra.
Though I think Jimmy Uso's return might work better than we think now because he's been gone for a minute. And he has that connection because, as I've been saying, I think Triple H said it. You haven't seen nothing yet. I think we're getting Jay eventually involved in this. I think we're getting Jimmy eventually involved in this. I think we're getting Sammy eventually involved in this, along with The Rock. So I do think there are a lot of big cards still to be put on the table.
Sammy's my favorite, man. And Sammy's chapter of this long Bloodline saga was my favorite thing out of everything that we've seen with the Bloodline. So I can't wait till when we circle back to that. We got John Deller here who says, what's your chemistry with CM Punk? I would say I felt pretty good when I interviewed him. I interviewed him at San Diego Comic-Con, which was a dream interview for me, Robin. You know that. A lot of people know that. And he was very nice to me off camera, before and after, which was just really cool because I wasn't sure, what it was going to be like. And that was the number one question that everyone kept asking me was CM Punk nice? He was nice. He referred to me by my first name. We had a really nice little conversation and, it was just cool. So I went into the interview a lot more comfortable because we had that off-camera conversation beforehand, and it was just, I don't know, it was just easy. And like you mentioned earlier, I think a lot of people would think that because he is intimidating, but he's intimidating because of the superstar that he is. Because he's a big star, he's obviously going to have that aura, that like intimidation aura. But in terms of how he is in person, nice, down to earth, treated me and the other interviewers that were there with nothing but respect.
I did about a 15, 20-minute in-studio sit-down with CM Punk back in the day. He was promoting some movie. I forget what it was. I think it was a horror movie.
It was the girl in something. It had a girl in the title. I don't remember, but it had girl in the title.
And I will always remember when we were done, he looked over to me, he said, "That was really good, man. Great job. No BS. Great job." Like, I was like, as people who do what we do, that's like a real compliment. You don't get that. It doesn't happen very often where somebody takes. So that stuck with me in the midst of everything that happened with him leaving WWE, obviously, and AEW and whatever. And I have a friend, Dave Sepperson, who used to work over at WWE, and he had a pretty good relationship with Punk. And he would always tell me, Punk's the best. He's the greatest guy. But if he doesn't like something, or he feels a certain way, or feels crossed, he has a real temper and can fly off the handle about that, which probably seems like a fairly apt description given our experiences and everything we've seen.
We got, thank you so much, John, by the way, for asking. We got Sheldon Jackson here who says the headlines for clickbait to me is simple. The lie is always more entertaining than the truth. The lies get headlines and the truth, not so much. Yeah, everybody says this, right? It's the saying that a lie travels faster than the truth does. The truth will always get there last, and a lie, because it's usually, spicy. People are like, oh, well, let me find out more. People rather believe a lie than the truth, because sometimes the truth is a little boring.
And people believe, like, they want to believe some of this BS in the sense where you can just put, a photo with a quote on it without any attribution. It can say the wildest thing and people will share it everywhere. But I think the expression is a lie can get all the way around the world before the truth can strap on its boots.
See, exactly. And that's unfortunate. But I do think that now, a lot of news outlets have gotten called out for their clickbait. And I think that now people, especially if you're constantly on the news or you're seeing these accounts, I think at this point, a lot of people have been able to distinguish which accounts are legit, which ones are not, which ones are trying to sensationalize things. And you just know now. And so I don't know. I mean, it's easy to want to put some crazy headline out there to get some numbers. It's so easy to want to do that. But, I think at the end of the day, people just want the truth. That's it. They just want the simple truth.
Well, and you frame it, look, I mean, it's not as if you don't want someone to click on your headline. You want to write a good, engaging headline. And I think there's room for like that, like, what is this about? But not shameless, not misrepresenting the content of what you're about to click on. Getting people to click on it and then coming away thinking, okay, that was a good experience as a consumer.
I was watching this YouTuber, and I really like this YouTuber. There was this YouTuber who basically helps other YouTubers maximize their views, right? Like, this person's sole job is to work with YouTubers and help them grow as a platform, grab them, get more videos, more subscribers, all of that. That's their job. So I clicked on one of her videos because I was very intrigued by the topic. She grabbed my attention, right? So I click on the video, but I was listening to the video and she was talking about going back and retitling all of your videos to make it more. She didn't use the word clickbait, but the way that she was showing us examples, I kept thinking to myself, this is clickbait. This is 100% clickbait. I could totally do that with my videos and they will skyrocket views. But I started thinking, like, that's obviously not the way to go. But I was kind of shocked and a little bit bummed out that it kind of made me feel like that was the only way to get views. Well, if you got to write some crazy ass headline that's not even only kind of true.
But you don't establish the connection with people that way. Yes, in the short term, but it may be one of those cut off your nose to spite your face kind of deals. Because, I mean, like I said, the thing of the CM Punk, but I'll sometimes genuinely see a comment in my comment section that says, I love that you're not just spouting off the mouth to get clicks, that you're actually like being logical and rational and present. And it's like, oh, thank you, like, because that's what. But there again, I don't know where we went very meta here and into this like dissertation on media coverage and whatnot. But there's a line, because it's okay to write an engaging, click-friendly headline that makes people curious, as long as it's not shameless and isn't misrepresenting the content.
We got Uncle Donk here who says, how do y'all think WWE's creative plans to bring back the wise man? Ooh, dude. Okay, we were talking about the pops that Roman Reigns is getting. Wait till you hear that pop for Paul Heyman. Like, that one's going to be pretty sick. I don't know how they bring him back. He's got to have something special in terms of, like, he's not just going to pop up in a backstage segment. I would hope that the moment happens where he's going to have to, I think Roman Reigns will have to set it up. Introduce him, bring him in, be like, I've got something that you don't got, Solo Sikoa. And bam, he brings out Paul Heyman and everyone's like, yeah. I don't know if that's any good, but what do you got, Robin?
Well, I think one of the other commenters had a good point, that he's the one that bestows the tribal chief garment upon Roman Reigns. And I think, this is a long game. Triple H, give him credit. He plays it's almost like he builds between big events and just sort of fills the rest in a little bit sometimes. But we haven't seen Jimmy yet, like I mentioned, right? I'm hoping that Jacob Fatu is off screen with purpose right now. Obviously, they didn't rush to bring Paul Heyman back. Roman Reigns hasn't even had the stick in his hands yet. Like, we have not heard Roman Reigns' voice other than, the spear utterance, since he returned. So I think, all these things are being built up to be big payoffs when they each indeed happen. I don't know if, Roman needs to pull the Paul Heyman card in order to beat Solo Sikoa, but I think it might light up like the first big promo he does to bring Paul Heyman back and have them share that moment on the mic.
We got Alvin White Jr. who says Roman attacks on Tama was for that X feud. Oh God. Alvin, thank you so much for that super chat. All right, guys. So let's get to this. We got a couple more items to get to. The other big item that I do want to touch on for SmackDown is that we officially have Cody Rhodes' opponent for Bash at Berlin. And that, my friends, is Kevin Owens. Now, Kevin Owens was apprehensive and didn't really want this because he felt like he didn't have a good win-loss record, which I love that he brought that up. I thought that is a great babyface, someone who is self-aware. We take people that are self-aware for granted, okay? And so I love that Kevin Owens was like, well, my win-loss record, this and that. He's coming up with all of these reasons as to why it shouldn't be him. Just take it, bro. Just take it. Eventually, he ends up kind of getting played like a fiddle backstage by freaking Adam Pearce and Cody Rhodes. And so we end up seeing the match officially get made for Bash at Berlin.
Yeah, I'm going to push back a little bit. How am I supposed to buy Kevin Owens as a threat to Cody Rhodes if Kevin Owens doesn't buy Kevin Owens as a threat to Cody
Unless
Rhodes?
it was all a plan, unless it's all a ruse. You know how they say sometimes you got to act dumb to get what you want or to work your way into something? Maybe he was just acting nice. I don't know.
It feels like more filler for Cody, right? Like, look, Cody's last big match was really to just, get the return of Roman Reigns. I don't know. It doesn't do that much. I'm sure the match itself will be good again, but KO had those kind of matches with Roman in the midst of that really long run where okay, he's food. This is just on to the next thing, and it feels like the same way. I don't feel like Cody is going to lose that title or even have an inkling that he's going to lose that title against Kevin Owens. It's not until you see Cody on the other side of the ring of The Rock or Roman Reigns or, maybe eventually Gunther in some way, one of those heavies, and these other ones, they just feel like they're there to fill up the time in between, like I referenced before.
Also, sorry I called Nick Aldis Adam Pearce. Whatever. You guys know what I'm talking about. I saw someone put it and I was like, did I say Adam Pearce? Sorry, guys. I tend to do that sometimes. All right. Well, anyways, that match is happening. I'm honestly looking forward to it. You're right. Does Kevin Owens feel like a threat? Not necessarily. Are we expecting Cody Rhodes to drop the title? Not necessarily, but it's Kevin Owens, man. And I'm such a big Kevin Owens fan that I don't even care. This is sort of how I felt in that first AJ Styles match, where I was like, I just want to watch them wrestle. That's exactly how I feel about Cody and Kevin Owens. And who knows? Who knows what they come up with from now until Bash of Berlin? We got like 2 weeks, 3 weeks actually. We got 3 weeks until Bash of Berlin.
Well, and a lot of those, and I say this in in a positive way, a lot of those international shows feel like glorified house shows to a certain extent, where it doesn't, like SummerSlam, we saw all these titles change. Like SummerSlam is closest to WrestleMania as the Rumble. Those are the ones that are close to WrestleMania as far as importance. And we saw the titles switching hands all over the place at WrestleMania and then again at SummerSlam. A lot of these events in between are, hey, we're going over, we're serving this crowd, but we're not giving them a regular house. We're giving them a souped up house show with the biggest names. And the crowd does a lot of the work in carrying the show with their reaction to the show. And it feels to me like Bash at Berlin may be one of those, but I'm not so sure that you don't headline that one with Gunther and Randy Orton.
Oh, 100% yeah. Gunther and Randy Orton headlines that, in my opinion, like 100%.
Because not only do you have, obviously where Gunther locale is from, but just the quality of that match and it feels like the biggest thing Randy Orton maybe has been involved in as a solo guy since he's come back.
Yeah, really, honestly, it really does feel that way. All right, so we will kind of speed through some of the other topics that happened on the show, but those were really the big main things. I would say the next thing that I would really consider big from the show was primarily LA Knight's United States title celebration, and this we had a confrontation between Santos Escobar and LA Knight, where Santos Escobar takes LA Knight's freaking catchphrase and starts changing it, and he says, with everybody saying Escobar, see? I died, Robin. That was the funniest shit to me. And then this led to a match between Andrade and Santos Escobar. Carmelo Hayes gets involved, and Santos Escobar ends up stealing the victory. Rosema pulls it tight, gets the win, and Andrade was kind of screwed here. So what'd you make of all of what we saw here with both of these segments combined?
I think they're pretty good. I think Santos is a good, worthy challenger of LA Knight. It's a good place to put him in. I think, I kind of agree with what Undertaker said on his thing, that Logan Paul did do his part in elevating the status of the U.S. title. So it feels like a little bit bigger of a win for LA Knight to have that. And then therefore it feels like a bigger elevation of the challenger to face him. And then I kind of think this Andrade and Carmelo Hayes deal was crowdsourced. I kind of think it was, they saw the reaction to that first match that they had, then they quick ran it back, and now they're going to give them a whole feud. I don't know if that was actually planned as much as them reacting to the initial match.
That's what it feels like, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because I remember the first time I saw them wrestle together, I was like, oh shit, like this was good. And I was so glad that they ran it back, and the fact that now this is turning into a feud, I think was definitely smart of them to do, because what else are they doing? What else do you got these guys doing? You don't got them doing anything else, so you might as well run with it. That's kind of how I felt. And same thing for Santos Escobar. I think he's freaking killing it, and he sort of gets put, I think he's always the bride, never the bridesmaid. I'm sorry, no, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. There you go. That is Santos Escobar, because on NXT, he was freaking awesome. And the highest he got there was NXT North American Champion. I thought he had what it took to be NXT champion. I thought that was going to be happening for him. Okay, so then he finally goes into the main roster. He's now doing stuff on the main roster. Cool. He had that really great feud with Rey Mysterio. Loved what they did there. Had some other awesome moments. However, nothing has really led to anything just yet. And so that's why I kind of feel like he's sort of been underrated, both on NXT and on the main roster.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, Denise. We've brought this. Maybe that's why they create other titles, because it's tough. There are a lot of quality performers. I mean, Andrade's really been impressive with what he's been able, what he is able to. I didn't say like, it's not like it's a new thing. What he's capable of doing in the ring, and it stands out. I think Santos Escobar has really worked on that character that was, worked really well opposite Rey Mysterio, but eventually you have to move beyond that too. LA Knight was going for the longest time without actually having, no matter what the crowd response has been. Jey Uso, we've talked about that, still hasn't had that coronation moment. Like, there are a lot of good performers out there, and there's only a few big prizes. And even the U.S. title is a consolation prize in the grand scheme of things. I don't think it's on the same level as even the Intercontinental title, right? It feels a little bigger now, which is good, because you need to find stuff for some of these performers to do. But that's why, like, sometimes I think the internet fans complain too much, because you'll see you never want to see anybody lose their job, of course, but you'll see a wrestler get released or their contract run out or them complain about something behind the scenes. And everybody's initial reaction is always like, oh yeah, the big company's screwing them. There's a lot of good people out. You can't make everybody happy at the same time. It's just not possible.
So I do think that but that's the thing though. I just want these, like, for example, Santos Escobar, just to use him as an example, like, just give him to at least be involved in a big story. Because I feel like they did do really good with that Rey Mysterio story. And then after that, it kind of just went nowhere, it fizzled out, whatever, right? And we never really continued that. And so I would like to see stories, if someone does good in a story, in a feud, whatever, I would like to see them, hop on over. Let's go to something else. Let's see what else we can come up with, especially if you delivered. Now, if it sucked ass and it was dry and it didn't rock, then okay, great. I get it. I get why that person wouldn't get another, spot till who knows when. But I do think that they should utilize Santos Escobar and Andrade a little bit more, because, especially Andrade, like, he came in with all of this, like, oh my God, he's back in WWE. Let's do cool. And I feel like it hasn't really gone. I mean, until now, we've at least started to get this story with him and Carmelo Hayes. Cool. But before that, so like, he could have been with any company and he was basically being booked the same.
Though I feel like all these people we're talking about feel strong right now. I don't think any of them feel weak or pigeonholed in, or it's like, here's just something for them to do. Like, yes, you want them to, reach the pinnacle of their career or have this big elongated thing that really pulls you in and really care about. But I feel like each of these individuals we've just mentioned all feel strong right now. I mean, Andrade got those wins over Carmelo Hayes in the midst of it. Carmelo Hayes now wants his get back, and Santos Escobar is going to be going for the U.S. title against LA Knight. I mean, I think it's pretty good use in the meantime, because I do feel like none of them feel like, all right, let me use I hate to call people out by name, but let me use Austin Theory as the counter. Like, it's over for bro, right? Like, I feel like, with Austin Theory, we thought maybe he might have had it there for a minute. He got a little bit of a bump back with Grayson Waller. Now he's eating the pins, and I just don't think it's ever going to happen for him. I don't feel like Santos Escobar or Andrade feel like an Austin Theory right
now. No, yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay, like, there's still light at the end of the tunnel. We got Trevor L here, who's been a DWO member for 1 month now, who says, speaking of Logan, congrats to, and I hope I don't mess up this name. Is it Imani or Imani?
Iman Khalif, I believe.
Iman Khalif.
It's the Algerian boxer who was
right. I did see that. Yeah,
and was at the center of a lot.
Yeah, a lot of drama, but got her gold. All is good. Thank you so much to Trevor for being a member of the DWO. All right, so there's one more thing I want to get into before we wrap up the show, and that is it's actually two things. We got some stuff with the women here. Jade Cargill went one-on-one with Alba Fyre. It was this quick squash match, but this then had Blair Davenport go out there, and she cost them the titles last week on SmackDown. She goes out there, she helps out Alba and Isla, so they're doing their trios thing. Naomi, thank God she came out. I love that she came out, because obviously, she has history with both Jade and Bianca. They were all partners, all a trio at WrestleMania. So she goes out there and she has their back. So now it's looking like it's becoming a 3-on-3 type of situation. But anything here really stick out to you?
No, I mean, I thought it was good for what it was. Eventually I think we need to hit, the rubber needs to meet the road with Bianca and Jade and where their plans are, because
feels like they're extending it. I don't mind that. I don't mind that. I actually think they need to get the tag team titles back to Jade and Bianca.
Yeah, probably so, because there's been too many major cards they haven't been a part of, and they're too big as superstars both individually and as a tandem where they're not being featured on these. That's what I was trying to get at is, they need something to really chew on and work with. Because right now, like, it's like, okay, cool, here's Jade and Bianca, but there's no there.
Yeah, and so that's why I feel like I want them to win the titles back. I'm cool with them doing this like 3-on-3 simultaneously, but I do want to see those titles change hands because I just feel like they haven't been making the tag team champions look any good. And then today, that was a squash match. Jade Cargill just took her out just like that. And I thought, you could have probably done something a little bit more. They are, that is one half of the women's tag team champions. But she was out like a light within however long this match was. And one more thing that I want to get into from SmackDown. Before I do, we got Stephen Marchulli here who says, when the Jade Bianca split happens, let Bianca be the heel. That's definitely something that we have been waiting to see if it were to ever happen, Bianca Belair as a heel. They seem to be apprehensive about it. We even thought they teased it for a while, but they never actually ran with it. So who knows if and when that does happen. I think it will happen in terms of them breaking up and beefing with each other because everybody's anticipating that. I don't know who's going to be the heel and who's going to be the babyface in that. It could be Bianca. I think that would be the most intriguing thing because we haven't seen her as a heel. So I would like to see it, but who knows if they'll run with it, though.
It's also risky. Like Bianca is one of those baby faces that, it's almost like Cena-esque in a sense. Do you ever give that up, right? Like inspiring to young girls of different demographics. Like there's just a lot.
Little braid.
Yeah, a lot of positivity there that she's worked really hard to capture. So, it'll work in a sense because it's like going to be like, oh, man, I can't believe Bianca. But there's also a risk involved in something like that.
Yeah. John Taylor says SmackDown is delayed an hour where I live, so it just ended 6 minutes ago. I have to go back and stream, but wanted to show support to the show. Thank you so much, John. That's really appreciated. Thank you so much. And enjoy. It just ended, so I hope you enjoyed SmackDown. All right, and the last thing I do want to get to is this behind the scenes. No, this backstage segment with Tiffany Stratton, who is planning a celebration for Nia Jax, which we're going to be seeing next week on SmackDown. But she is confronted by Pretty Deadly. And after this confrontation with Pretty Deadly, she then has a confrontation with Chelsea Green. And that was my favorite freaking thing. I loved everything. First of all, I would love to see Tiffany Stratton all of a sudden become best friends with Pretty Deadly. They all just mesh very, very well. And then with Chelsea Green, Chelsea had the best freaking comeback today. She made fun of Tiffany Stratton's outfit, and then she called her tacky time. And I thought that was freaking hilarious. It was simple. It was effective. Seeing them just be so mean to each other. Oh, that was good. I need to see a Tiffany Stratton Chelsea Green feud because I can't even imagine how snippy they'd be at each other.
Yeah, they're like a Venn diagram, right? Like where there's a lot of cross space between the characters that is shared, but then there's also differences to them. So yeah, I think that would be obnoxiously awesome.
I need to see it, guys. I need to see it. Make it happen. Make it happen. Alrighty, guys. Those were really the biggest topics from SmackDown here today. We'll be back. Well, we will be back. I'm trying to think. Are we going to be back next week? Sorry. Okay. So next Saturday, I'm going to be in Mexico. Next Friday, I'm going to be in Mexico. So there's no Friday show next week, but then afterwards, I think we are back. Or is that Bash of Berlin?
So
we'll be here the 23rd.
According to what you sent me, it's the 16th and the 30th we are off, and the 23rd we are back.
Yes. Okay. So just a heads up to everybody here. I am going to be at Bash at Berlin. So if anybody's going like, wait, what is she talking about? I'm going to be at Bash at Berlin, which is why there's not going to be a Friday show that week, but there will be a Friday show on the 23rd. So just keep an eye out, guys. I post and let you guys know throughout the week on Twitter and on YouTube as well. Unfortunately, because of travel days, the Friday show is impacted. However, Mondays moving forward, I am going to be doing the Raw watch along now live because a lot of people were asking for that. So I'm going to be coming back to do that. Tuesdays, I'm here for NXT. Wednesdays, AEW Dynamite. And then I'm thinking about starting doing some more watch alongs, and I'll announce those hopefully in the next couple of weeks. But Robin, what do you got going on?
You can check out my YouTube, me on social media. I run a women's basketball website through Sports Illustrated called Women's Fast Break on SI. And my son, Raj, who I reference often, has requested that we start a wrestling YouTube channel together. So perhaps that could be
that's so cute, like a father and son thing.
in the works down the line as well. So, I'll keep it, just like Denise said. I appreciate all y'all who've come over from here and check me out and follow me. But I try to let you know what's going on whenever something's going on.
That's so cute. I love that. Alrighty, guys. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. I'll be live tomorrow on Busted Open, so you guys can check that out too. And we'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye, everyone.
Yeet.